Hello everyone. I'm sitting in the park and I'm having a nice little drink and I'm going to talk with you about something that has been a real problem to me. But first I just want to take a sip, so I'm going to get out my favorite beer. I drink this very light beer. I know I shouldn't be making commercials, but I like light beer, so I like the Coors Light. And take a nice sip of that. I had a wonderful lunch before this, and Barney came home from her work with some ribs and some tri-tip from a local barbecue place, and it was really nice. So I'm happily fed with nice meat, and decided to go for a bicycle ride and get myself another drink. And because I want to talk on this video about how it has been for me to live with what I have discovered, and I discovered in my mid-20s that I could talk with myself and listen to myself. And it wasn't actually until my early 20s, sorry, I said mid-20s, I mean early 20s. It wasn't until my early 20s that I realized, like, oh wow, so I can have embodied language when I listen to myself and feel what I'm saying, so to speak, huh? And from that moment on, I began to talk with myself and explore what it is like to talk with yourself and to continue to listen to yourself. And I haven't stopped doing that since my early 20s. And now I'm 67 years old. Yeah. And I'm kind of retired. And so that's why I can sit here on a day like this in the park with a can of beer. And I'm just enjoying my free time. And but I'm also, on a day like today, it is the 5th of May, also reflecting on how it has been for me to live how I live, because even before my early 20s, I already had a sense that this was possible. But I wasn't clear about it. I didn't know about it. I had not articulated it. But I somehow already, from a very early age actually, even as a child, I could not believe in the Catholic belief that my parents were trying to raise me in. I could not believe it. I just couldn't believe it. I tried, and I felt bad that I couldn't believe it, but I couldn't believe it, and I didn't believe it. And I was confused why everybody else could believe it and why I couldn't. And why couldn't I be like everybody else? But the fact was that I didn't believe it, and I didn't want to believe it either. Yeah, that too. And but yet I tried to, and I felt I had to, and I felt also like I failed to believe in it. That's also really kind of a strange conundrum, that you failed to believe when in fact there is nothing to believe. You are just believing nonsense. And I failed at that. I failed. I wasn't able to do as I was supposed to. Yeah. I wasn't able to act according to my conditioning history. And that was a big problem. That was a huge problem. And as time has gone by, I mean, I'm 67 now, it is very evident to me that this is not just my personal problem. This is the problem that many, many people have, of course, because we're all conditioned to be a certain way. And then during our lives, we discover in one way or another, whether it is in a good way or in a bad way, that what we believe is not what our lives are about. Yeah, what we've been taught is not who we are. And so, how do we deal with that? Well, in my case, I began to speak with myself, and I began to listen to myself, and then I discovered, like, oh wow, so if I speak with myself and hear myself, I realized, like, yeah, this is who I am. I can talk like this. And I feel good about this. And even though it was very soon after that discovery clear to me that nobody does this, nobody wants this, nobody recognizes this, I had to let myself know again and again and again, no, I want this. I am like this. I want this. I can be like this. I can be like this. I can only be like this. I cannot be anything else. I tried to be everything else, but I couldn't be anything else but this. Yeah. And so, you know, as I now already for so many years have called it, I discovered the difference between my disembodied language and my embodied language. Yeah. And yeah, I've always wanted to have embodied language, and I never wanted to have disembodied language. And yeah, I now know that my embodied language, that is what I wanted, that is voluntary behavior. And disembodied language is not what I wanted, it's involuntary behavior. Yeah. So where I'm at right now, things are clear, and I'm not saying that I know everything there is to know, but I know much more about it than when I started in my 20s. And I'm much more, yeah, you could say, certain about it than I was back then. Back then I was totally uncertain about it. Actually, when I discovered that I could listen to myself, that I could have embodied language instead of disembodied language, it was very, very difficult to continue with my embodied language. And I felt constantly a sense of despair and turmoil and conflict, because everywhere I go is disembodied language and I can have embodied language. How am I supposed to live in a world where everybody is having disembodied language and I can have and I want to have embodied language? I've had to adjust to that. I've had to learn how to live with that. And it has been a really, yeah, you could say, in many ways it was a painful experience, but I would say at this moment I am very glad that I went through all of that. Because I am where I am now. I am so happy with myself. And I feel that I have done what it took to have ongoing embodied language, and I'm glad that I did what I had to do, even though you could say there were many troubling experiences involved in that. But I went through all these experiences, and I'm glad that the result of all of this is where I'm now. So yeah, I'm sharing this with people on YouTube because I want people to know that if you want to have embodied language, you will have to go through some sort of a process of separating the chaff from the corn, or how do you call that? From the husk, or how do you call that? I forget what it's called. But you have to somehow separate what is embodied language and what is disembodied language. You have to, for yourself, decide how that is for you. And nobody can do it for somebody else. I could only do it for myself. And just like everybody else, I've also had my moments in which I wanted other people to do it for me, to help me or to support me or to give it to me, or, to do what I wanted them to do. But that's just not how this works. And so, but the reason I'm making this video today is because it is the 5th of May, it is Liberation Day in the Netherlands, where the Dutch celebrate that they were liberated from the Germans in the Second World War. And as an American, I immigrated to the United States in 1999. I look back on all of that, and I look back on also the history of my former country where I grew up, the Netherlands, and I am appalled. I am appalled by how the Dutch people have given up on their culture. And not only the Dutch, but also the other allied forces, the Canadians, the British. It is amazing how these countries have been overtaken by immigrants, by people that came there mostly illegally, and who are demanding everything to be their way, and who are completely overruling the existing culture, the culture of democracy, the culture of freedom, the culture of Western values as they have been going on. And so as an American, I cannot help but acknowledge that only the United States is standing up for individual freedom. And it is astonishing to me that people are not getting this. I mean, I just listened to a wonderful press conference of Marco Rubio, who was letting people know about the situation in the Strait of Hormuz, and the state of affairs in the war with Iran. And he was just so clear, so articulate, and so direct, and so informative about where it's at, and why these allied forces also at this moment, they're not supporting America, really. It's unbelievable when in fact the whole world depends on that Strait of Hormuz to be open, so that trade can occur, so that ships can move, and that and it's just astonishing how people do not realize that America under Donald Trump is the only force in this world for individual freedom. And so here I am sitting in this bench in this park with my beer in my hand. Yeah. I'm shamelessly drinking a beer, and I'm even having a little whiskey here. My favorite whiskey here, it's called Magnum. It's also really nice whiskey. It's called Highland Park whiskey. Highland Park is peated whiskey. Very nice. So I'm gonna have a sip of that as well in a while. But I'm sitting here by myself, and I am putting it all together, how it is that the world is the way it is, and that for the most part, there is no freedom in this world. There is no individual freedom in this world. And if there is individual freedom, it is because of America, and it is in countries where, you could say America after the Second World War has established a social democratic society, like in Germany, in Holland, in Britain, in France, where people have individual freedoms. And this has been going on since the Second World War, and I'm not saying that there wasn't anything like that before the Second World War, but particularly after the Second World War, there was a sense that, this is also why the United Nations was created, to prevent these wars, and to move to something better. But here is the United Nations, who doesn't even step in to sort of say to Iran that Iran should not block the Strait of Hormuz. Iran does not own the oceans, the seas that give free passage to people who want to trade with each other. And for Iran to actually do that, it impacts the whole world. And I haven't even said anything about the fact that Iran wants to have a nuclear weapon. Iran is perpetrating Islamic terrorism all across the Middle East. Iran demonizes Israel, wants to wipe it off the face of the earth. And it's just astonishing that the West has been appeasing Iran for so long without seeing any decrease in the hatred which has escalated towards the Jewish people with the attack on Israel, and it's it's just like, I don't know, Israel is being attacked just in the same way as the Netherlands was attacked by the Nazis, you know. And I do not know what these left-wing people are, how they come to their conclusions, but how can they possibly reason that Israel should just give up its country, should just roll over to the Hezbollah or the Hamas or to whatever it is, these Islamic terrorists who are wanting to kill all the Jewish people? I mean, how in the world can anybody reason that? Anybody with any intelligence? I do not see how that is possible. And so Iran, of course, is the instigator of a lot of this, because a lot of this terrorism is just supported by Iran. They have their proxies. And then there's the whole of the West, which is invaded by Muslims. And there's mosques all over the West, when there is no church anywhere to be found in the Muslim countries. And we're not supposed to say anything about that because that is Islamophobia. What kind of nonsense is that? Yeah. So we need to get this right. We need to get this straight. People are trying to invade each other. People are trying to dominate each other. And if the West is to survive, it has to defend itself. And that's exactly what Donald Trump does. And that's also what I do with my embodied language. Yeah. I am a free individual, and I have had my whole life to adjust to the disembodied language that's everywhere around me. And it has given me enormous trouble, just like it is giving everybody enormous trouble. It's not just my personal problem. Everybody is having trouble adjusting to disembodied language in which people do not listen to themselves while they speak, in which they are not in touch with themselves, in which they are dominating each other, oppressing each other, coercing each other, disrespecting each other, in which they are not in touch with themselves, in which they're disconnected from the reality. In disembodied language, we are just acting out our history of conditioning. The history of conditioning, which is a group behavior in which we have historically always survived. And so, yes, when I discovered my embodied language, I discovered my individual behavior. And individual behavior is completely different from group behavior. Collectivism is different from individualism. And so, from a very early age, I've always gone against the collective, and I've always been on the receiving end, of all the, you could say, difficulties that arise when a person is just individual. And yes, maybe I was not as clear about it as I am now. But I am clear about it now, and everything is very different right now, because before it wasn't clear. So as I adjusted historically to the disembodied language of other people, just to survive, just to get by, and just to emotionally survive, to intellectually survive, to financially survive, to you know, I also wanted to live my life. How do I survive? How do I live in this world with my embodied language? That was always my theme. And now I am 67 years old, and I have survived, and I have explored my embodied language often enough, thoroughly enough, to be able to put it together that it is all explained by the dominance of disembodied language everywhere, and the absence of what I'm talking about, embodied language. So I've had to do what I had to do, and I had to adjust to sort of fit in, and to also play some role, to also have a job, to have some credibility, and yet in reality, with my embodied language, it is just totally clear that, the people with disembodied language, they never give any credit to what I'm doing. They cannot. They cannot validate what this is. Only someone who him or herself is involved in embodied language can validate this. And so I've had to come to terms with that, and I would say everybody who wants this is going to have to come to terms with this. It is a huge undertaking, and yet, in spite of all its difficulties, I have succeeded. I have accomplished my embodied language. I've accomplished my clarity. I've accomplished my ongoing embodied language. And my ongoing embodied language is my language enlightenment. I don't subscribe to any other enlightenment than the enlightenment that is determined by the overt nature of language. All the other people who talk about enlightenment, they talk about, inner language, which to me is a complete fallacy. There is no inner language. There's only overt language. So only what I say, what you hear, what I write, and what you read, that is overt language. And other than that, there is no language. So when I stop speaking, when I stop writing, there's nothing to listen to, there's nothing to read, and I am without language. That is my natural way of being. And so that is clarified by our embodied language. It cannot be clarified by our disembodied language. Our disembodied language is incapable of addressing, expressing our individually lived experience. So I guess in this video I'm also speaking with the people I have met, the people that have come across me, the people who have... I rub my face because sometimes I feel mosquitoes are landing on me and they like to suck my blood. And there's mosquitoes out here. But no, I am speaking also with the people, all the people that I've met during my life. I'm speaking to all of them because I've left them. I've left them because they went on with disembodied language, and I went on with my embodied language. And I had to leave them because they didn't want to go on with embodied language. And so here I am, letting you know that yes, at the time I adjusted to you and I went along with you, And I have enjoyed you certainly also, because the people that I've met, we have had good times. We have had, yeah, everybody that has met me has had good times. I know that. And so you should not forget that, because these good times, for me, they continue, and for you, they don't. They can't, because you continue with disembodied language. In any case, I have, of course, historically always had to adjust myself to other people, because, yeah, you know, I wanted to make my mark, I wanted to be accepted, I wanted to fit in, I wanted to do the right thing. I also had all sorts of ideals about changing the world, making it into a better place. But I no longer have these ideals. I no longer believe in any of that. But I do believe in individual freedom. I do believe in the fact that America is the only country where, under Trump, yeah, the ideals of the founding fathers are being supported. And I am also in support of these ideals, because look at me. I'm speaking with you from my individual freedom. How else could I talk like this? Yes, I have adjusted to people, and then at some point I have rejected them. It's so funny. I always felt rejected by others, but the fact of the matter is, of course, that I rejected others. I have always rejected people with disembodied language. And maybe not immediately, maybe not clearly, yeah, because I was not clear myself about it. But at this point in my life, I'm very clear about it. I have embodied language, and I reject all disembodied language. It's just as simple as that. I find disembodied language completely uninteresting, a waste of time, and I also fully acknowledge that although, yeah, I mean, of course, I consider myself a person who is on the right side of politics. I fully acknowledge that also in right-wing politics, nobody talks about embodied language, and yet they support individual freedom. So this is a very big paradox, that on the one hand we want individual freedom, and yet we are not having the language of individual freedom. Well, I happen to have the language of individual freedom. Yeah. All right, well, I'm now gonna open this little bottle here. Just a second here. Just gotta put my phone down here. Oh, this is so good. I love peated whiskey. Yeah, it's one of my favorite drinks, and so occasionally I get myself a bottle, and this is a very small bottle, but I enjoy it all the same, although. And but sometimes I get a bigger bottle. This is really, really good peated whiskey. Highland Park. I highly recommend it. I'll save the rest for a little while later. Put the top on it. Oh man, it tastes so good. So, to pick it up again where I left it, I've always adjusted. I couldn't do anything else but adjust. And I want to also let everybody know that everybody in one way or another is always adjusting to everything that is going on. Everybody. So, of course, we all want to survive. Yeah? I mean, it's a given. However, we haven't really understood what it is like to be free. To be free means that we are no longer having to struggle to survive. That we are surviving already. And that, yeah, the countries where there is individual freedom, we can actually have embodied language. In all these Western democratic societies, we should be having embodied language like I'm having. Why aren't we having embodied language? Why is in Western democratic cultures the main way of talking disembodied language? Can anybody tell me that? Everybody is competing with each other. Everybody is trying to dominate each other. Everybody is trying to outdo each other. Why aren't we having embodied language? Embodied language is more intelligent. Disembodied language is stupid. Disembodied language, it always involves the illusion of inner language, the mind thinking. I don't have a mind. I don't think. I have overt language. So there is no covert language. And so we need to be intelligent. We need to be educated. We need to be, on par with our technology. Yeah, our technology is all about overt verbal behavior. Why aren't humans? Humans pretend to have covert verbal behavior, and they want to program the technology with this illusion of inner language, which is total stupid nonsense. Yeah. AI should be programmed only with overt verbal behavior, but that's not what is going on. No, if I talk with Croc from what is it, XAI, and Croc tells me like, oh no, there's all this research that speaks about the fact that we have inner language, or that whatever, there's all kinds of ways in which they justify it, because supposedly that neural behavior that sets the stage for our language is the same as our language, supposedly. No, it's not the same. Of course it's not the same. I'm sitting here in this park, right? And I'm looking at the trees, and how can you say that the roots in the ground are the same as the branches on the tree? I don't know, No, the roots in the ground is a completely different story than the branches of the tree, I'm just saying, I'm just trying to use a metaphor, for God's sakes. So yeah, I'm just sitting here and I'm enjoying myself. And I guess I let my beard grow again until I have enough of it. Well, the real story behind that is that, in my work, I still work a couple of days a week. And in my work, they when you have a beard like that, or when you let your hair grow, you have to wear a beard net. And so then I don't like to wear that beard net because it's kind of suffocating, especially when it gets warmer. So I might cut it off again, but okay, we'll see how long it lasts. Maybe I can stand it a little longer this time. Yeah. All right. Well. It's kind of an overcast day, and I kind of like that. It's not too hot, just right. So yeah, I pretty much said what I wanted to say. Uh, I guess I wanted to address also all the people that I have met who feel rejected by me, and if they feel rejected by me, if you feel rejected by me, that's how you're supposed to feel, because embodied language and disembodied language, they never meet. No. And if there was a meeting, it was because you temporarily were stopping your disembodied language. Yeah. And so that's why we could have embodied language. But once you no longer want to stop your disembodied language, there's no possibility for us to have embodied language anymore. And so yeah, that is what I call the binary nature of disembodied language and embodied language. There's no way around it. And so it's astonishing to me that in all of the psychological literature, I've studied psychology, I've studied behaviorism, behaviorology, I've read many works on neuroscience. I know a thing or two about these matters. Nobody talks about this. Nobody. I've read many philosophical books. I've read many spiritual books. It's all just the same disembodied language. And we are still having to come to terms with the fact that it is true. Yes, hear me out, folks. It is absolutely true that there is a gigantic difference between the way of talking in which a person as a speaker, in this case me, in which that person listens to him or herself, I listen to myself, or that person doesn't listen to him or herself. That difference, that is the difference between disembodied language and embodied language. It cannot be denied. In disembodied language, you want other people to listen to you. You have to listen to other people. But you're not listening to yourself. You cannot listen to yourself. Other people demand your attention. So there's no way in which anybody is able to listen to themselves in disembodied language. It's not going to happen. Besides, you just don't want to listen to yourself. Because if you were to listen to yourself in disembodied language, if you were to do that, what would you hear? You would just hear your stress. You would just hear your frustration. You would just hear your uncertainty, your endless doubts, your endless turmoil, your conflicts, your problems. your anxiety, your fears, your sense of rejection, your sense of regret and guilt, you would endlessly, if you would listen to yourself while you have a disembodied language, you would hear something that sounds horrible. Yeah? The person who has disembodied language, they sound horrible. It's not just you. Everybody that has disembodied language sounds horrible. And you feel like, why am I even listening to this? What is this bullshit? This pretentious bullshit, this defensive bullshit. What is this, I don't know, preposterous, make-believe? Anyone who listens to disembodied language would be appalled, would be saying like, I don't like it. Of course you don't like it. Of course you don't want to hear it. So you don't want to hear yourself. You don't want to hear your own disembodied language. Yeah. And yet, if you listen to it, and if you say, oh my God, I sound really horrible. Oh my God, I sound really carried away. Oh my God, I hear myself, I've lost track of what I actually wanted to say. My language seems to go on its own. It really is true that in disembodied language, we experience language as an involuntary behavior. And if we accept that, if we acknowledge that, if we say that, if we hear that, it's painful, it's sad, it's stupid, it's I don't even know how to say it. It is so profoundly disturbing that everybody engages in disembodied language by default. They don't even know that they are always engaging in disembodied language. And yet, if you ever get a chance to get to it, then you just go like, oh my gosh, are we always doing this? Am I always disconnecting from myself? Am I always being not true to myself? Well, that's a hard thing to acknowledge, right? Yet if you do that, then you are not trying to make it any different than it is. Then your disembodied language is as ugly as it is. Yes, you are manipulating people, and yes, you are constantly reacting, and yes, you are negative, and yes, you feel completely how do you say that? Out of touch. And yet, in order to gain that sense of control, you just claim that you are right. You are, I don't know, you are God, basically, supposedly. Yeah. Because that's another one of those things. I mean, I don't care about supposedly the real God, the God in heaven. No, you are God. It's never about God in heaven. It's about you being God. Yeah? Always. It's always about you being God. You are the most important, right? But you're not. And you know you're not. But you just claim to be, and you pretend to be, and you dominate others by doing that successfully. And yeah, to some extent you succeed. that you're full of shit. You're phony. You have no reality. You can only have reality in embodied language. And yeah, that requires that you put your disembodied language in its place and that you say, oh, wow, so all that ugliness is disembodied language. Yeah. Yeah. Are you still following? Oh, that is so lekker. Oh, I said lekker. Lekker, that is a Dutch word. Lekker means delicious in Dutch. All right, I'll take the final sip of my delicious whiskey here. Oh, that tastes so good. Yeah. Oh man, that is so good. I just love the Irish whiskey, or the Scottish whiskey, sorry. Highland Park. Is Highland Park Scottish whiskey? I don't know. Yeah. It's Scottish whiskey. Oh man, it's so good. That is delicious. Yeah, and you can of course say like, well, you know, he's just sitting there in the park and he's just being drunk and he's just rambling, and that's fine with me. I would hope that you can sort of use my habit as a way to soften the impact, so to speak, because I know it has an enormous impact. Yeah. Embodied language has an enormous impact. And in saying that, reality has an enormous impact. An impact which dispels the illusion which is created by your disembodied language. I mean, you look at me, right? Look at me. I'm in your face. And I speak the way I speak. And you hear me. There's no denying about what you feel. Of course you can deny it, but you've been denying that your whole life. So you might as well just use this particular opportunity, since you've already listened to me this long, to sort of just say like, okay, I accept that I'm feeling what I'm feeling. I'm not trying to make it any different than what I'm actually feeling. Wow. I didn't know that there are so many cars racing by here, but yeah, I happen to sit here. I guess all these cars are racing by to sort of just keep you on your toes.